All right, let's get right into it. Ready to really take control of your finances. Today, we're going to dive deep into Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Okay.
Now, have you ever felt like personal finance is just all about cutting back and, saying no to fun things?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you just got to be miserable.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be a breath of fresh air because this is all about how to actually build wealth but still enjoy your life.
Right.
And Sethi's book really nails that approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that struck me is that it's all about building a life that's rich,
Right.
and I don't just mean like in your bank account.
Right.
It's about experiences and joy and actually living according to your values.
I love that. It's like flipping the script on that whole deprivation mindset that a lot of us get stuck in.
Yeah, totally.
He has this concept of the rich life, which is so much more than just being a millionaire, right?
Absolutely.
It's about living intentionally.
And he emphasizes that spending freely on what brings you joy is actually encouraged.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as long as you're cutting back in areas that really don't resonate with your values.
Huh. That's really interesting. So I guess the question is what does that rich life actually look like?
Yeah, what does it look like for you? What are those things that are non-negotiables that you would spend happily on?
That's a good question. For me, I think it's travel and trying new foods. I'd much rather cut back on clothes shopping to be able to afford those experiences.
Makes sense.
But the great thing about Sethi is he doesn't just leave you with this vague idea of the rich life. He lays out a practical 6-week program to actually get you there.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly actionable. Each week, he tackles a different area of personal finance.
Okay.
And he starts with credit cards, which I have to admit I was a little surprised by.
Me too. It kind of seems like the opposite of what a lot of financial advice says.
Right, but his perspective is that you can actually use credit cards to build credit, not debt. He's all about strategically using them, to maximize rewards and then, of course, automating those payments.
Right, so you're never late.
Exactly.
I like that. It makes me think of that classic saying, work smarter, not harder.
Totally.
And speaking of smarter, week 2 is all about beating the banks.
Yes. Say goodbye to those measly interest rates on your savings accounts.
Right, time to find those high yield options.
Exactly. He really pushes the idea of finding the best checking and savings accounts, even if that means going with online banks, which can be a little scary for some people,
Sure.
but often worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And he talks a lot about automating your savings, too.
Yeah, making it just seamless happening in the background.
Love that. Okay, so then week 3 is where things get even more interesting. We're talking investing.
Yes. This is where Sethi really shines. He takes this whole world that can feel so intimidating,
Totally.
especially for beginners, and he demystifies it. And one of the key insights here is that starting early, even with small amounts, is actually more important than, trying to time the market or waiting until you have a huge chunk of cash to invest.
Yeah, you don't have to wait until you're rich to start investing.
Right. It's all about leveraging the power of compound interest.
I love how he puts it. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Exactly.
Okay, so then what happens in week 4?
Week 4 is where Sethi really sets himself apart with his focus on what he calls conscious spending.
Okay, conscious spending, what does that mean?
So it's not about deprivation. It's about making intentional choices about where your money goes.
Okay.
Maybe you love going to concerts or splurging on fancy coffee or taking weekend trips.
I like all those things.
Sethi encourages you to align your spending with those values.
Guilt-free.
Guilt-free, exactly.
So if going out to eat makes you happy but you hate cooking,
Yeah,
then just do it.
exactly. As long as you're saving in other areas that aren't as important to you.
Love that. Okay, so then on to week 5. What's that all about?
Week 5 is all about save while you sleep. So automating your finances to make saving and investing effortless.
Okay, tell me more about that.
This is where technology becomes your best friend.
Mm.
Setting up automatic transfers for savings, bill payments, it all just happens without you having to think about it.
Wow. It's like having a personal finance assistant working for you 24/7.
Exactly.
Amazing. Then we're at week 6. What's the final week of the program all about?
Week 6, Sethi dives even deeper into investing, and he guides you through building a diversified portfolio using low-cost index funds.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about index funds earlier.
Right. He breaks down complex concepts like asset allocation.
Which basically means how much of your money to put in different types of investments. And
Exactly, like stocks and bonds.
okay, so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And he talks about rebalancing, which is basically adjusting your portfolio periodically
Okay.
to make sure you're still on track with your goals.
Got it. So he's really walking you through every step of the investing process.
He really is. It's like having a personal finance coach in your pocket.
I love that. But I will teach you to be rich goes beyond just saving and investing, right?
Right.
He also talks about things like negotiation and the psychology of money, which I think are often overlooked aspects of personal finance.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And this is where I think his approach really stands out.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that personal finance isn't just about numbers.
Right. It's about our mindset, too.
It's about understanding our own emotions and behaviors around money.
Yeah, like why do we spend the way we do?
Exactly.
And how can we change those habits if they're not serving us?
Right. And, one thing I really appreciated was his focus on practical tips and strategies.
Oh, yeah. Give me an example.
Okay, so before any big salary negotiation, he recommends practicing your pitch out loud.
Oh, that's a good tip. I should have done that before my last job interview.
Yeah, it helps build confidence and make sure you can actually articulate your value when it matters most.
That's so true. Sometimes I get so nervous in those situations that I totally blank.
And it's all about advocating for yourself and not being afraid to ask for what you deserve.
I like that. It's about knowing your worth.
Exactly. But he also recognizes that people often get tripped up by their own psychological barriers when it comes to money.
Right, like we have all these beliefs and habits that can hold us back.
He called these money dials.
Money dials. Huh, I've never heard that term before.
So basically, these are areas where we have certain tendencies or emotional triggers related to spending, saving, or investing.
Okay, so like for someone who tends to overspend on impulse purchases,
Exactly.
what would their money dial look like?
Well, Sethi might suggest implementing a cooling off period, like waiting 24 hours before making any non-essential purchase.
That's a great idea.
It gives you time to really think about it and decide if it's something you actually need.
Yeah, I know I'm definitely guilty of making impulse purchases, especially online.
It's so easy to do.
It is, but it's like that pause, that cooling off period could really help.
Right. Right. It's like interrupting that automatic impulse.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm really liking this money dials concept. So how do we figure out what our own money dials are?
Well, Sethi helps you identify your own money scripts, which are basically those subconscious beliefs and patterns that might be holding you back financially.
So it's like shining a light on those limiting beliefs.
Yes. And these often come from our upbringing or past experiences.
Right, like if you grew up hearing your parents constantly worry about money.
Exactly. You might have internalized that anxiety, and that might be affecting your financial decisions today.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. So once you're aware of these scripts, you can start to challenge them and rewire your thinking around money.
Exactly. And Sethi provides lots of practical exercises and tips for doing that.
That's great. And I love how he emphasizes that financial setbacks aren't failures. They're just learning opportunity.
Right. It's about adjusting your course and continuing to move forward.
It's like that whole growth mindset idea.
Exactly. And, all of this leads back to Sethi's message of guilt-free spending.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
So by automating your finances, spending consciously on what truly matters, and understanding the psychology behind your money habits, you can achieve financial freedom and enjoy your hard-earned cash without feeling bad about it.
It's like finding that balance between being responsible with your money, but also enjoying your life.
Exactly. It's about making choices that align with your values and aspirations.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so we've talked a lot about saving and spending, but Sethi also challenges this idea that building wealth is all about cutting back.
Right. He actually devotes a big part of the book to exploring ways to increase your income.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so what are some of his strategies?
Well, he talks about negotiating raises, exploring side hustles, and constantly developing your skills.
Okay, so it's about being proactive and creating opportunities for yourself.
Exactly. He even provides a framework for negotiating, effectively researching market salaries, practicing your pitch, and anticipating objections.
Wow, he really covers all the bases. It's like he says money is like water. If you don't create a path for it to flow, it will just sit there and stagnate.
Such a powerful analogy.
Yeah.
It really highlights the importance of actively managing your finances, both in terms of spending and earning.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
We have.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
We'll be back in just a moment to continue our discussion, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
We've been really getting into Ramit Sethi's approach to personal finance and how he helps you build a life that's rich in every sense of the word.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
one of the areas where I think he really challenges conventional wisdom is in his approach to investing.
Okay, investing.
He takes this world that can feel so complex and makes it accessible to everyone, no matter what your financial background is.
Right, it doesn't have to be just for like Wall Street experts.
Exactly. Sethi believes that investing shouldn't be shrouded in mystery.
Hmm,
Hmm. He breaks it down into simple, actionable steps that anyone can take.
I like that.
And one of his core investing principles is the power of what are called low-cost index funds.
Okay, index funds. I've heard of those, but I'm not really sure what they are.
So imagine a basket of stocks that tracks a particular market index, like the S&P 500.
Okay.
That's essentially what an index fund is.
Okay.
It allows you to invest in a diversified group of companies with a single purchase.
So instead of trying to pick individual stocks, which can be risky and time-consuming,
Exactly.
Sethi recommends investing in these broad market index funds.
Precisely. He argues that trying to beat the market by picking individual stocks is often a fool's errand.
Oh, interesting.
Instead, he advocates for a long-term passive approach,
Okay.
riding the overall growth of the market.
Mm.
This buy and hold strategy has proven to be remarkably effective over time.
So it's about being patient and letting your investments grow over the long haul.
Precisely. And by investing consistently in index funds and letting compound interest work its magic,
Yeah.
you can build significant wealth over the long term.
So it's like planting a seed and then letting it grow naturally without constantly digging it up to see if it's sprouted yet.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And Sethi doesn't just tell you what to do. He actually guides you through the whole process.
Oh, nice.
He walks you through setting up a brokerage account, choosing the right index funds, and even rebalancing your portfolio periodically.
Rebalancing. Now, that's a term that I hear thrown around a lot, but I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Yeah, so think of it like this. As the market goes up and down, some of your investments might grow faster than others.
Mm-hmm.
Rebalancing is simply the process of adjusting your portfolio to maintain your desired asset allocation.
Okay, so can you give me an example?
Sure, let's say you initially decided to invest 60% of your portfolio in stocks and 40% in bonds.
Okay.
Over time, your stock investments might perform really well and increase their proportion in your portfolio to, say, 70%.
Mm.
Rebalancing would involve selling some of your stock holdings and buying more bonds to bring your portfolio back to that initial 60-40 split.
Oh, okay. So it's about making sure your investment ship stays on course even when the financial seas get a little rough.
Exactly. And Sethi provides clear explanations and real-world examples to make these concepts easy to understand, even if you're just starting out.
It's great that he makes it accessible to everyone.
Yeah. I think what I appreciate most about his approach is that he doesn't just throw information at you. He empowers you with knowledge and encourages you to take ownership of your financial journey.
Yeah, he doesn't just tell you what to do, he explains why it's important.
Right. And he gives you the tools to do it yourself.
And one of the most common things I hear about investing is that you need a ton of money to get started.
Right. But Sethi completely debunks that myth.
Really?
Absolutely. He stresses that starting early, even with small amounts, is far more important than waiting until you have a big lump sum.
Oh, wow. So you don't have to wait until you're like rich to start investing.
Exactly. And he has that great quote, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today."
I love that. It's never too late to start.
It's all about taking advantage of that incredible power of compound interest over time.
So the sooner you start investing, even with small amounts, the more time your money has to grow.
Precisely. And another thing that I appreciate about Sethi's approach is that he doesn't sugarcoat the risks involved.
Right. Investing always comes with some level of risk,
Exactly. He acknowledges that market fluctuations are inevitable,
like we're seeing right now.
but he emphasizes the importance of staying focused on the long term.
Not panicking when the market dips.
Yeah. He encourages you to develop what he calls a long-term investor mindset.
Resisting the urge to sell everything when things get scary.
Yeah, because often those dips are actually opportunities to buy more at a lower price.
That's interesting. So it's about shifting your perspective from short-term gains to long-term growth.
Exactly. And remember, investing isn't just about building wealth. It's also about protecting your purchasing power against inflation.
Oh, right. Because over time, inflation can really eat away at your savings.
Exactly. So by investing your money in assets that outpace inflation, you can maintain your purchasing power over the long term.
That's a good point. So we've talked a lot about the practical aspects of investing.
Yeah.
But what I find really interesting about Sethi's approach is that he also emphasizes the psychological and emotional side of money.
Absolutely. He understands that our relationship with money is often complex.
Right, it's not just about numbers.
It's influenced by our past experiences, our beliefs, and even our personalities.
It's like everyone has their own unique money story.
Exactly. And Sethi encourages you to identify what he calls your money scripts.
Money scripts. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So these are those subconscious beliefs and patterns that might be holding you back financially.
Like what kind of patterns?
Well, maybe you grew up hearing phrases like money doesn't grow on trees or we can't afford that.
Yeah, I definitely heard those growing up.
Right. And those messages can really shape our beliefs about money and influence our financial decisions.
Even without us realizing it.
Exactly. It's like having these invisible scripts running in the background dictating our behavior.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. So how do we figure out what our own money scripts are?
Well, Sethi provides a lot of exercises and questions in the book to help you uncover those hidden beliefs.
Okay, so it's like shining a light on those subconscious patterns.
Precisely. And once you become aware of those scripts, you can start to challenge them and rewrite them.
So if you grew up with a scarcity mindset around money, you might be hesitant to invest or take financial risks, even when it's in your best interest.
Exactly. Or maybe you have a tendency to overspend because you associate spending with happiness.
Yeah, that's a common one.
Right. So by recognizing and addressing these limiting beliefs, you can open yourself up to new possibilities and make more empowered financial decisions.
I like that. It's about taking control of your money mindset.
And Sethi provides lots of practical tools and techniques for overcoming those mental and emotional roadblocks.
So it's not just about knowing what to do, but also understanding why you're doing it.
Exactly. He encourages you to develop a growth mindset, you know.
Embracing challenges as opportunities to learn.
Exactly. And he emphasizes the importance of celebrating those small wins along the way.
Yeah, because even small steps forward can lead to big results over time.
Absolutely. So if you've been hesitant to dip your toes into the world of investing, Sethi's approach offers a really refreshing and empowering perspective.
It's about making investing accessible to everyone.
And remember, it's never too late to start. Even small, consistent investments can make a huge difference over time.
Yeah, it's like that saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly. And now, before we move on to our final segment, let's transition to one last but crucial aspect of Sethi's philosophy.
Okay, what's that?
It's his emphasis on earning more.
Earning more. Interesting.
Yeah, this is where he challenges that traditional idea of just cutting back and saving more.
Right, because there's only so much you can cut back.
Exactly. He empowers you to take control of your income by negotiating raises, exploring side hustles, and constantly developing your skills to unlock higher earning potential.
Oh, I like that. It's about being proactive and creating opportunities for yourself.
Exactly. And he even provides a framework for negotiating effectively.
Like a step-by-step guide.
Yeah, things like researching market salaries, practicing your pitch, and anticipating potential objections.
So it's about being prepared and knowing your worth.
Exactly. And he has this great analogy. He says, money is like water. If you don't create a path for it to flow, it will just sit there and stagnate.
That's a powerful image. It really highlights the importance of being proactive with your finances,
And not just focusing on limiting your spending.
but also finding ways to increase your income.
Exactly. It's about creating those multiple streams of income.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have. From investing to the psychology of money and even exploring ways to earn more.
And we're not done yet.
There's still more to uncover.
We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up our discussion of I Will Teach You to Be Rich and talk about some key takeaways you can apply to your own financial journey. So stay tuned. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
It's been a really interesting conversation. We've covered so much ground, from automating finances to that idea of conscious spending and even challenging yourself to earn more.
Yeah, it's like Sethi really flips the script on traditional personal finance advice, doesn't he?
He does. He gives you a framework, a set of principles and strategies that you can apply to your own unique situation. It's not one size fits all.
I like that. It's about empowering you to make informed decisions, not just blindly following someone else's rules.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways that our listeners can start implementing in their own lives?
Well, one that really sticks out to me is the power of automating your finances, like setting up those automatic transfers for savings, bill payments. It's a game changer.
It really is. It takes the thinking out of it. You don't have to rely on willpower or remember to do it manually. It just happens.
Right. It's like you're paying yourself first, but on autopilot.
Exactly. And then there's Sethi's concept of conscious spending, which I think is so important.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, it's about aligning your spending with your values, identifying those areas where spending brings you genuine joy and satisfaction, and making sure you're allocating your money accordingly.
Guilt free.
Exactly. If you love going to concerts or trying new restaurants, spend on those things. But be mindful of those areas where you're spending out of habit or obligation and where it's not really bringing you happiness.
Right, like maybe you hate cooking, but you feel guilty about ordering takeout. Sethi would say, if it brings you joy and you're saving in other areas, go for it.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance. And don't forget the power of negotiation.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Whether it's your salary, a bill, or even the price of something you're buying, there's almost always room for negotiation.
And Sethi gives you the tools and the confidence to do it, to advocate for yourself and get what you deserve.
And when it comes to investing, I think one of the biggest takeaways is to start early and be consistent. Even if it's with small amounts, time is on your side.
It really is. The magic of compound interest is incredible. And Sethi breaks down investing in a way that's easy to understand, even for beginners.
Right. Index funds are a great place to start. And remember, you don't have to be a financial expert to invest successfully.
And perhaps the most important takeaway from I Will Teach You to Be Rich is the idea of understanding your own psychology around money.
Yes, those money scripts we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Those subconscious beliefs and patterns that can sabotage our financial progress. Once you become aware of them, you can start to challenge and rewire those negative thought patterns.
And Sethi gives you practical tools to do that. He encourages you to develop a growth mindset, embrace challenges as opportunities for learning, and celebrate your wins along the way.
It's about remembering that you have the power to change your financial future. You're not stuck with the beliefs or habits you've inherited.
I think what's really inspiring about Sethi's approach is that it's not just about accumulating wealth, it's about using your money as a tool to design a life you love.
Absolutely. It's about aligning your finances with your values and creating a life that's rich in experiences, joy, and purpose.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a question. What does your ideal rich life look like?
What experiences would you prioritize? What passions would you pursue? What steps can you take today to start creating that life?
We encourage you to reflect on these questions and start taking action. Remember, your rich life is uniquely yours to define. There's no right or wrong answer.
And if you want a more in-depth look at all of the strategies and insights we've discussed, we highly recommend checking out Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
It's a game changer for anyone who wants to take control of their financial destiny. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope you found it valuable.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep living your richest life.